Hey, it's Susan Barnett. I want to start with some new content for you about Transaction Desk. And in this video, we are going to talk about how to create a transaction. And so you will notice that I am logged into my Transaction Desk, and I am going to walk you through that process of creating a transaction. One of the things that you absolutely need to remember about Transaction Desk is when you log in and you are sitting on your agent dashboard, you have a menu to the left-hand side of your screen. This menu on the left-hand side of your screen is the system menu. You will also notice when we create a transaction that you will then also have a menu on the right hand side of the screen, and I'll show you that once we get into the transaction. The main thing to remember here is that once you're in a transaction, you absolutely don't use the left-hand menu because the left-hand menu is for the system. If you are inside a transaction and you click on the left-hand menu, it will take you out of the transaction, okay? So pay attention to where you are while you're in Transaction Desk. Now, this is my agent dashboard in Transaction Desk, and it probably looks different than your agent dashboard. Look for another video about how to customize your agent dashboard. Now, I'm not going to do that here today. We are going to create a transaction. So I am going to click on Create Transaction, and it's going to open up another window where I will need to name my transaction. Naming a transaction is very important. It's very possible that you will be able to have Susan Barnett's house listed for sale and then write up more than one offer before you actually get Susan Barnett under contract. So it's very important that you name your transactions so that you can find them. The way I've done it over the years is not perfect, but it has worked for myself and my husband. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click here, and I apologize. My dogs are barking. You're going to hear them in the background. Somebody's messing around outside. And sorry about that. But I'm going to name the transaction. And the way I've done that over the years is I would use the address like 123 Elm Street. Okay, and I would do a hyphen, and then I use the buyer's or the seller's name. Okay. And so you can see I've used this quite often, 123 Elm Street Buzz Lightyear, and it's going to auto populate for me. And so once you've done something a couple of times, the system will remember, and so does Chrome. So you will be able to maybe utilize that tool. But after I've named the transaction, I'm going to have to tell Transaction Desk what kind of transaction it is. Now, your window may not have the word template, and that is because you may not have transaction templates set up to use with your Transaction Desk. Your office can set them up for you to use, or you can even create them yourself to use. Okay, your window may use the word type, type, and you have to choose the type of transaction that you are about to start. So my transaction template relates to a type, so I am going to choose residential sale package, and I am going to use that transaction template and that type. I can import data from my MLS if I want to when I'm writing up an offer. And to do that, I simply click on this down arrow. I choose my MLS, and then I put in an MLS number, and it will import specific data from that MLS. It will allow me to bring information in like the address, the listing agents, the seller's names, those kind of things. I can start from scratch, or I can import this data. Let's try to use this listing number right here. I do have to correct that. And then I'm going to click on Create. Okay. And right now what it's doing, it is going out and it is gathering the information on this listing from the MLS. So it may take a minute for this information to come over. Now, to keep myself from being confused, I'm going to change the name of my transaction because, as you see, I used a listing that has a different address. And I kind of did that on purpose because I want to show you something about this area of the transaction. So a few things I want to show you. First of all, there's a right-hand menu. Remember, I told you when you create a transaction, you will have a right-hand menu. So from now on, as long as I'm working in this transaction, when I open this transaction and I'm working in this transaction, I'm only going to use this right-hand menu. So let's talk about the items that are up here before I talk about the wizard. So I'm going to need to change the name of this transaction, okay? And so I need to change it to 9343 Charbar because that's the address of the property. Now, what I want you to notice is when I changed that address, this check mark became active. Before I changed it, okay, it was gray. But this check mark is a save button. So I am going to click on save. Okay. So now it's going to save it with that new address. So I did that so I could show you that this check mark is a save button. This envelope icon is where you can email stuff into your transaction. That will be a different transaction desk tip video that you can watch. Okay, so I'm going to move on down now, and we are in the wizard. All right, we are in the wizard. We're in the details section, and we are on step 1 of 5. You will notice that I have a previous button here that is not active because there's no previous screen, or I have a next button. Next is also a save button. Okay. So that is how you walk through the wizard. You fill out the details and then you would click the next button. So let's do that as we're walking through this. So you can see this has pulled some information over from the MLS. Now, the one thing that you do have to learn about Transaction Desk is which one of these fields actually print onto the form, the purchase and sale agreement form, and the other forms that you're going to use. I have a document that you can email me and ask for. It is a document. It's kind of a step-by-step transaction desk process. And in that document, I have indicated and typed out which fields print on the form. So if you want that, you can shoot me an email, susan@susanbarnett.com, and I will send you that information. So as we're walking through here, I may have to add some information, maybe not. One of the things that I know that I will have to add is in this legal description field here. This legal description is actually, it prints out on the form on line number 10, where on the purchase and sale agreement form, that's where it prints at, where it says that that the property is otherwise known as, and the recommendation from Tennessee Realtors is that on that blank that you would put in the tax ID number, the lot number, and the subdivision. Okay, so I can type this in, tax ID number, and that's right here. So I can use my keyboard controls to copy and paste that in here. There is no lot number, but there is a subdivision name. Okay, and so I'm going to also copy that subdivision name and paste that in here. And so now that information will print out on the purchase and sale agreement. As I come down, I can see that the property was listed for $365. The buyer wants to offer $365. Okay. And you can use .00 at the end of the amount. You just can't use commas as you are typing out the money, if you will remember that. And we have deposit. Deposit is earnest money. So they're going to put $5,000 down as earnest money. I'm going to scroll on down here, and there's some things here. There is property includes. They want to ask for the Samsung side-by-side. Super cool is the model. Stainless steel refrigerator. Okay, so I want to make sure that I have everything spelled right. You can see I skipped on something right there. And so I'm going to go back and fix that. It's easy to type in. It's easy to fix. They don't want the porch swing, so they're going to ask the seller to remove that porch swing. They know that there's a propane tank that is leased, so we're going to put propane tank here. And as we scroll down, you'll see there is a save and exit button at the bottom. As you can probably guess, if I click on save and exit, it's going to save what I've entered so far and exit me out of the wizard. If I accidentally click on save and exit, it takes me back out to the transaction dashboard. That's okay. I can go over here to my right hand menu and I can click on wizard, and it's going to take me right back to where I was in the wizard. Okay, so now I need to go to step 2 of the wizard, so I'm going to click on next. When I click on next, this is the transaction dates, and I need to enter some dates. It's telling me when that property was listed, but I'm really not concerned with that. I'm concerned about the offer. So I need to put my cursor in that field and click, and it will open a calendar, and I can say today is the date of the offer, and I need an offer expiration date. I'm going to do the same thing, and I'm going to say that this offer will expire tomorrow, and I need a time. I'm going to say it is going to expire at 4 p.m. because I don't want to work after I go home to cook dinner for my family or spend time with my family. Okay, so think about that when you're putting times and such on your forms. The next thing I need is a closing date. So I'm going to click in the field. I'm going to punch over into the next month because it's going to take at least 30 days to close. Today's the 20th. And so I am going to say that we want to close on the 24th. Now, as you can tell from this video, we're in the holiday time frame here of Thanksgiving and Christmas while I'm recording this video. However, you need to always pay attention to your dates. I'm going to need to talk with the lender and title companies. I'm going to need to kind of know what their schedules are. The buyer wants to be in before Christmas, but because of the date of them making the offer and they're getting a loan, we're going to have to give that lender 28 to 35 days to close this loan. So that happens sometimes. So you've got to think about the dates that you're using. Now, once I have all the dates in, again, there's that save and exit button, but I don't want to do that. I want to click on next. And next are contacts. So this has pulled contacts out of the MLS for us. So there's the listing and selling agents and the listing and selling brokers. Okay. And so as you can see, those are already in there. So I don't have to enter them. If I needed to enter them, I would click on the plus add button. But I need to add my buyer. Okay. So I'm going to click on the plus add to add my buyer. Once I click on that plus add to put the buyer into the contact section, I can either create a new transaction contact or add an existing contact. So I'm going to create a new transaction contact because I need to get both of the sellers in there. Okay, you may have noticed a seller on the list, and I'll show you what to do with that in a second. But I'm going to put in the seller here because there's two sellers. It happens to be a husband and wife. So I'm going to click seller on the down arrow and choose seller. And I'm going to say that seller's first name is Miriam, okay, and her last name is Motley, okay. I don't have her email because I am working with a buyer, but I need to get this seller in here. I have to add her name here under legal name, preferred signature, and preferred initials. If I do not enter this information, the name won't print out on the forms. So I've got to enter that. So Miriam Motley, okay. Then I can use my control C to copy and my control V to paste so I don't have to type it again. And her initials are MM. And then I can click on save. All right. So now I have added Miriam Motley. She is the seller. She is the wife. You might have noticed right here it says seller because the seller's last name was entered into the MLS. But I can't just use last names. I have to use their full legal names. So I'm just going to click on what was put into the MLS. And sometimes you might see something like owner of record or just of record. A lot of times agents don't put the seller's names into the MLS. I don't know why, but they don't. So this is a seller, and so I checked the property condition and the confirmation of agency and the tax records, and it shows that this seller's first name is Gerald. So I am going to also, Gerald Motley, going to enter it here so it comes out on all the forms, and I'm going to copy and paste it and put their initials, and then I'm going to save it. So now I have Gerald Motley, I have Miriam Motley. Those are the sellers. I've still got to get my buyer, Buzz Lightyear, in here. And fortunately for me, Buzz has bought a house from me before. And so I can go to the plus add and I can add an existing contact. So I'm going to click on that and I'm going to put in Buzz. And we'll see if that doesn't find Buzz Lightyear. There he is. I'm going to add him into this transaction. It will open the window so that I can check. Now, please notice that Buzz's email is incorrect. See? So I used this on purpose because you need to check this stuff. So it should be Gmail. There we go. And I'm going to click on save. So now I have all the participants to this transaction. If Buzz has a spouse or a partner, I would need to add them. So I would plus add, and I could create a new transaction contact and make it buyer, and I can make it Sally Lightyear. Okay, and her email, it can be the same as Buzz's. So you can use the same email for husband and wife in Transaction Desk, okay? And so I am going to copy and paste that and SL, and I'm going to save it. And so now I have two sellers, two buyers, the listing agent, the listing brokerage, the selling agent, the selling brokerage. I've got everybody that's involved in this transaction listed in my contacts. I could also add the secretary or office administrator at my office if I'm going to need to email that person different copies of signed forms and things like that. I can put everything into my transaction desk. I could put the lender in here. I could put the title company in here. That way they're all in here. And when I need to email them forms or anything, I can email them out of Transaction Desk and everything is in one place. That's what Transaction Desk is. It is a transaction management platform. It is not just a place to fill out forms and get signatures. Can you use it that way? Absolutely. But if you're going to be in the real estate business, it is better to be organized and have everything in one place. And you can do that with Transaction Desk. Okay. So let's move on. We are on step 3 of 5. I've got everybody in here and I am going to click on next. When I click on next, I am in the forms section. Now, because I have transaction templates created, I have forms in here already. So what you have to think about transaction templates are, they are a folder full of forms. You may be able to right now walk into your office and get a package. It could probably be in a manila folder or just a packet of forms for everything you need to list a house or to write up an offer. That's what a transaction template is. Now, your brokerage can create them for you or you can create them for yourself. That's going to be another video that you need to watch on how to create these transaction templates. And the way you would do that is you would take your checklist that your brokerage gives you. You know, maybe they have a checklist of all the forms you need to turn in when you list a property or when you put a property under contract. Take that checklist and add forms to your transaction or create your transaction templates. So if you don't have forms, you don't have transaction templates, you got to add them, right? So you're going to click on the plus add and you are going to choose the most recent residential forms, or if you're doing commercial, but residential forms, and you are just going to select forms, and then you are going to click on the add button. And you can select, you can go through the list and you can select everything that's on your checklist. You also can search the form by putting in a form number, okay? So I put in 711 and it is showing me both the commercial form and the residential form, and I can search forms like that. So if you have a checklist, you don't have to just run up and down this list of forms looking for the form numbers. You could type in the name or the form number and select it, and you'll notice it's adding it into the basket here. Okay, so you can tell how many forms you've selected. I've selected 4 forms. Then I just click on add, and it adds them to the transaction. And if I scroll down here to the bottom of these forms, you're going to see there are the forms that I added to this transaction section called forms. Now, once I have all the forms I need there, I click on next. It takes me to documents. There is a difference in Transaction Desk between forms and documents, okay? Forms are something that you're going to be able to type on, just freely type on inside the forms editor of Transaction Desk. A document is, let's see, how am I going to explain this to you? Is something that has already been typed on. It's already been worked on. It is a flattened PDF that the only way you can type on it is through the markup system, which that we will see when we get in AuthentiSign, and then there'll be another video on that also. But right here is where you add documents. Some MLS will go ahead and import like the property condition, the confirmation of agency, the lead-based paint, those documents that are uploaded in the MLS. When you import into Transaction Desk from the MLS, some MLSs will import those documents. Some don't. So I don't know if your MLS does or don't. This MLS did not do that. So what I've had to do is I've had to go out to the MLS. I've had to get those documents, download them, put them into my computer so that I can now upload them into Transaction Desk. So to do that, I'm going to click on this plus add. And you get, I call this the big blue box. When you see the big blue box, you click on the big blue box to upload those documents. So I'm going to go out and I'm going to grab those documents that I need, and from wherever I have saved them in my computer. So I'm going to get the property condition disclosure, I'm going to get the lead-based paint and the confirmation of agency, and I'm going to upload those into this transaction. You can select multiple forms. I've selected as many as 8 or 9 before. I truly don't know what the limit that I can select at once is, but you can select multiple forms. So once I have all of these in here, I click on done, and it opens up my transaction to the transaction dashboard. All right, so that's the wizard. That's how you walk through the wizard to get some things already in place so that you can now work on your transaction. So what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to go ahead and start filling out the forms because these buyers want to make an offer on this house. So I'm going to click on forms over here in the right-hand menu, and I have my list of forms that I have available. I can start on whichever form I want to start on. For this video, though, I'm going to move straight into the purchase and sale agreement. And when I click on the purchase and sale agreement, the name of the form, it's going to open up that form in what we call the Forms Editor section of Transaction Desk. Okay? Now, here is yet another menu in front of us. It is across the top of the screen. Okay? So far in Transaction Desk, we've talked about 3 menus. We have this left-hand menu that you always see. It's always there because that takes you out of wherever you're at into the system, back to the drawing board, if you will, okay? But once I'm in a transaction, I'm going to use the menus inside the transaction. Notice the right-hand menu is gone, but I do have this top menu. So across the top, you have different menu sections. First is File. Okay, so File, the only things I've ever used File for is to save or print. Okay, so when it comes to the File command on this menu, if I roll my cursor over File and roll it down to Save, I've got two options. I can just click on Save, which if I click on Save, it's going to tell me in the bottom right-hand corner that it has saved the form. If I go back to File and I click on Save and I click on Save as PDF, it's going to want to download that to my computer. And I don't really ever do that because I keep everything in Transaction Desk. But if you have the need, you may find that you have the need to download the form that you're working on to your computer. But that is the File command. Next is the Fonts command. And I can change the style of my font, the color of my font, the size of my font, or the text functions of my font right here on this document, and it will change it for this transaction, but not for my every transaction. There's a different way to do that in your settings, which is another video, but I can do it right here in this transaction if I want to. I also have clauses. Now, clauses are pre-configured special stipulations that you can utilize. Now, in the state of Tennessee, you cannot practice law without a license. So the Forms Committee has 3 attorneys on it, and they create special stipulation language that you can utilize in your forms, all right? And they are called clauses inside Transaction Desk. So the one thing that you have to know about clauses is the Transaction Desk system will not let you enter a clause on any section of the form if it is not what they call a multi-line field. So I'm going to put my cursor right here at line number 9, okay? And then I'm going to go up here and I'm going to click on clause. But what I want you to do is watch the bottom right of my screen when I click on clause. It says a multi-line text box needs to be selected. So it won't let me just put a clause anywhere. But I will show you where you can put a clause later, okay? Next on the menu is transaction forms. What some people do is they will fill out a form and then save and exit and go back to the forms section of the transaction, get a different form, open it in the forms editor, fill it out, save and exit, and repeat that process to fill out all the forms. Well, you don't have to do that. You can access all of your transaction forms right here in the forms editor. So right now I'm on the purchase and sale agreement, but let's say I need to fill out another form. I click on transaction forms and it opens up my list of forms in the transaction. Now, if I want to pull up another form to work on, I just click on that form and it will open that form in the forms editor. Okay. So I don't have to go in and out of the forms editor. It's quicker to open up the forms using this on the top menu and selecting the form that you want to work on. So I'm going to go back to that purchase and sale agreement. Next is this little book icon. And this book icon will allow you to go down to different pages of the form if it is a multi-page form. Okay, if I know I need to go to special stipulations, that's on page 10, I can click on page 10 and right here, special stipulations. Okay, I can go back to page 1. I can also just scroll up and down through the form that way. There's also a zoom and or a reduction. You can zoom out. Okay, you can move the form around here with this tool, the zoom tool. You also have the ink pen icon. But I want to talk to you about this ink pen icon. If you are working with a seller or a buyer and you are going to be sending them multiple forms to sign, if you click on the ink pen icon, as soon as you finish filling out this form, it is going to email them this form to sign. Okay? And I call that you are one forming your customer or client to death. So what you want to do is you want to fill out all the forms and then exit the forms editor and then create a signing to get everything signed. Now, if you are only working on like a counteroffer or an addendum or an amendment to the transaction, then you only have one form. There's no problem with clicking on the little ink pen and sending it off for signature. Okay, but just think about what you're doing and make it as easy on your customers and clients as you can. Now, once you're completely finished filling out forms, and we're going to pretend that we are, but I do want to show you a couple of things before we actually exit. So I told you that this is where the actual stuff, if you will, that I wrote into legal descriptions, right here it is. You can see I can still manipulate it. I can scoot that over. Here's where I wrote in the refrigerator and the porch swing and the propane tank, and we put in the purchase price. When you walk through the wizard, it does not fill out every blank. You're still going to have to go in and fill out the form. But I just wanted to show you how it does populate some of the information to make it a little easier to fill out. But we're going to pretend that we have filled everything out that we need to fill out, and we are going to save and exit. And when we save and exit, it's going to take us back out to the forms section. And now I'm ready to send these forms to Buzz and Sally Lightyear because they want to make an offer on 9343 Charbar Circle. So to do that, I'm going to come to my right-hand menu and I'm going to click on Signings. Okay? Now, when I click on Signings, it's going to say, well, you're here in the signing section, but you don't have any signings, okay? So I need to click on the plus add to create a signing. When I click on the plus add, the window opens and I have to name my signing. Naming your signings are also as important as naming your transaction. Okay, because you may have counteroffer number 1, counteroffer number 2, counteroffer number 3, right? You may have amendment number 1 to amend the purchase price. So it's real important that you name your signings so you know what they are. If you don't name them, it will only be the form number. So be careful with that. And you might have already figured that out, that it's important to name your signings. So when I'm working with buyers, I usually call it the same thing every time I'm working with buyers, and I call it your initial offer paperwork. Okay, and I just save that. And now it is opening up Authentisign, which is the actual signing tool for Transaction Desk. Now, the first thing I want to show you here is if I need to change the name of the signing, okay, I can just click in the box and I can change the name of the signing or add to the name. Initial offer paperwork for Buzz and Sally. Okay. Now, once I've changed that, I need to click over here on this little icon that is the save icon to save the name. Now I have two choices in front of me. I need to add documents or forms, or I need to add participants. It doesn't matter which one you start with. But if you start with documents or forms, then you will need to click on signers to add your participants, your signers. Okay, so if you start with add participants, this stays open and you'll be able just to click on and add document or forms. So I'm going to do add participants. And I've got some choices. I can add myself. Of course, I'm going to need to be in there, but I don't usually choose that one. I go down to add from transaction. Okay. I could even add a new contact here, or I could pull them up from my contact database in Transaction Desk. But I'm going to add from the transaction. It's going to open up everybody that I've got in the transaction. So I'm the selling agent. I'm going to have to sign, and Buzz Lightyear and Sally are all going to have to sign. Please notice that it has them as remote signers here. Okay. I could change what their role in the signing is going to be. I could just say, give them a copy. If they don't have to sign, I could just give them a copy. I don't select reviewer. A reviewer is used for someone who has to okay a contract, maybe a trust or an estate or something like that. Don't ever use reviewer, okay? Most of the time it's going to be remote signer. Let me talk to you about the CC for a second. If I am filling out the purchase and sale agreement and maybe the confirmation of agency and the property condition report, just forms that I want to share with the listing agent, I could make the listing agent, I could select them and make them a CC. So what that means is once everybody has signed, it is going to send a copy of those signed documents to the listing agent. But let me caution you here. If I am getting any type of inter-office form signed or the get a home inspection form signed, anything other than something that I want to share with the listing agent, I do not want the listing agent to get a copy. I'll email them a copy once it all comes back to me. Okay? But if, let's say, I'm doing a counter offer or an amendment of some kind that the buyers or sellers need to sign, and then it can go directly to the other agent, I can add them as a CC. Okay, but think about what you're doing and make sure you're only going to be sharing what you need to share. You don't need to share your buyer agreements, your get a home inspection forms, where you select if they want a home inspection or not, or a termite letter or not, or radon or not. Those don't need to be shared with the other agents. Okay, so just think about what you're doing. But now I've selected who I want to be participants, and I'm just going to click on the select button, and there it has all of us listed. So now I can click on add a document or form, and I can go into my transaction. When I click on it, it's going to open up all the forms in my transaction, and I can choose the forms that the buyers need to sign and or I need to sign. So I'm just going to choose a few forms here. I'm not going to actually choose everything like it would be in a transaction. I'm just going to choose a couple of things that I want to show you how to do some things here. And I want you to notice, though, that as I'm scrolling through, you can see the word form right here. Okay, right here. These are forms. These are the forms that I have typed on. When I get down here toward the bottom, you're going to see some of these things, and they're going to be called documents. Okay, so I have several documents in here, and I can choose from the documents. These are documents that are in the document section, which is where like the lead-based paint disclosure is going to be, and the property condition disclosure and the confirmation of agency that I pulled from the MLS. So I'm going to pull and have the buyer sign some forms and some documents. And once I've selected them all, I just click on close. Now I have 6 documents and forms here that the buyer and or myself are going to have to sign. I can change the order of these forms if I need to. Okay, I can watch my cursor change right here. My cursor is changing as I run it over the double 3 dots, and I can click and drag it and move that form up. That's one way of reordering the forms. The other way is that I can just click in the box where the number is, take that number out, put the number I want that form to be, and it will reorder the forms. So that's one way that you can reorder the forms. When you're in the Authentisign section of Transaction Desk, the Tools area is your home base. So I am now going to click on Tools because I'm ready to start putting signature blocks and things on these forms. Well, lo and behold, I look and I go, well, shoot, I forgot to put their names right here on this form. I can do that now inside the Authentisign. I don't have to remove the form, go back and fill it out, and then come back in. Okay? There may be a time that I would need to do that, but not for this. So what I do is I change to Buzz Lightyear's signing tools, and right here where it says full name, I click and drag his full name up here onto this blank. I need to do the same thing with his spouse, Sally. I'm going to click and change to her and click and drag her over here. And I am going to also add an auto date because I left the date off. I'm just going to click over here and put a date there. And I used it under Sally's name. So when Sally logs in to sign things, that's when it will put that date in there. Here are the signature blanks at the bottom of the form. And so I'm already on Sally, so I'm just going to grab her signature box and put it here. And it will, when I click and drag the sign here signature box, it will automatically put the date and the time on the line with the signature box. This form does not call for a time. So if I want to remove that time, I simply click on it and then click on the trash can and it does away with it. Now I need to put Buzz on here and I need to put my signature on here. So I'm going to change to Buzz and I'm going to click and drag his signature over here. I'm going to remove that date and then I'm going to change to me. And notice that they're all different colors, which helps you with organization. And I'm going to take that date off also. I am going to scroll down now, and here is the confirmation of agency that I pulled down from the MLS. Now, I can't type on that form because it's a document in the transaction. So I again need to add the buyer's names here and my name. Since I'm already on my signing tools, I'm going to grab my name and pull it up here and stick it on the blank. Then I'm going to use the drop down arrow and I'm going to pull Buzz and Sally's names up here onto the blank. And I may have to scooch that over a little bit, right? It's okay. I can close that down and I can now change to Sally and I can pull her full name over here onto the blank, okay? I also need to make sure that I tell everybody what my agency status is because that's the law. I could have Buzz or Sally check that box. There's no problem with that. I'm on Sally right here, so I'm going to go ahead and grab the check box and drag it over here. So when Sally has to sign her name, she'll also have to check that box, okay? So I could have Buzz do it, Sally do it, or I could do it. It's all right, either one of those. You will notice that some of the signature blocks are already on this form, and that is because Tennessee Realtors has completed layouts for some of these forms with signature boxes. Some of them have dates and times. I hate to say this, but there's no rhyme or reason to it. Tennessee Realtors are the ones who have to create the layouts. So you can't create the layout. Tennessee Realtors will create that because they're the ones that has the contract with Transaction Desk. So the signature blocks are there, but I need dates. So here I am on Sally. So I'm going to grab this auto date and stick it here. Then I'm going to change to Buzz. I'm going to grab the auto date for him and I'm going to stick it here. And then I'm going to change to me. And I'm going to grab that auto date and stick it here. Now, I need to put in my firm name here. So I am now going to use the markup box down here underneath my signing tools, and it's called text box. It works a little different. I'm going to click on the text box, and I am going to then click on the form where I want the text box. You will notice that I can make this text box bigger, and I'm going to need to because my firm name is longer. So I stretched it and made it bigger, and I'm going to double click in the box, and then I can type in the box when I double click it, okay? Put my firm name here. All right, and so there's how I can mark up and create a text box to fill in things that need to be filled in once they're in AuthentiSign. I'm going to close this text markup section and I'm going to scroll on down through the forms. Here's the purchase and sale agreement. I'm going to get down here. We're coming up to a signature area here. There's a signature for Buzz and Sally to sign, but again, there are no dates and times, and dates and times are extremely important on all of our forms. You need to make sure they're on everything. So I'm going to change to Buzz, and I'm going to pull in an auto date and an auto time for Buzz. I'm going to change now to Sally. I'm going to pull in an auto date, and I'm going to pull in an auto time, and then I'm going to scroll on down to the other documents. Now, I chose this document to show you because it's important to know another thing that you might need to do on the forms. And so this is the importance of inspections and property survey. It's the RF 712, and this is where this form explains all these different things to the buyer, and the buyer has to indicate either they want to have this type of inspection or they don't. They have a choice here. So when you have a choice, we would lean towards putting a checkbox. But if you put check boxes here on each one of these boxes, okay, they can check both of them. So what you need to use is you need to use radio choice, okay? Now here's where you have to kind of know your buyers and know, who's really making the decisions. And, sometimes it's the wife that makes all those decisions, or it might be the husband. So I would change to Buzz. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this radio choice. I'm going to click and drag this radio choice over, and it gives me two because they have a choice. They have to pick one or the other, okay? They can't pick both. They have to choose. So I'm going to do this everywhere I have something that I need these buyers and or sellers to choose something, okay? I'm going to use this radio choice. I'm going to click and drag, click and drag. That's what you do. Click and drag and then move that second one down to the second box. Now, it doesn't have to be perfect because these radio choices, when they click on it, it's a pretty big dot, if you will, and it usually will cover that whole box. So it doesn't have to be exactly perfect. So don't drive yourself crazy trying to get it perfectly on there. Here's the last one, radio choice here and radio choice here. Okay. Again, I have signature boxes. So I'm going to auto date and auto time each one of these signature boxes by changing under signing tools to the appropriate signer and putting those on here. And I'm just going to move down to the next form. This is the lead-based paint disclosure that the seller had uploaded in the MLS. So I'm going to go back to Buzz because he seems to be the decision maker. And I'm going to give him a radio choice of either having a risk assessment or waiving the risk assessment. They've got to check a box. That's federal law. And then I'm going to come over here and I am going to input auto dates and auto times on all the forms for all the signers because it appears that Tennessee Realtors has already mapped out or laid out these signature boxes here. So I am going to grab these auto dates and auto times. Now, just for the sake of time, I'm not going to fill out my selling company, but if I was going to do that, I would use the markup text box, okay? I'll just go ahead and do it. I click on the text box, and then I come over and click on my form. It enters a blank box for me to type on. I can manipulate it, move it around, make it bigger. I double click, and I type in the name of my firm here, the selling company. And I can then close that text markup and I can put my name here simply by being on the signing tools for me and grabbing this full name and dragging it over this way. Okay. Coming on down, there's the property condition disclosure. And I am going to come down here. And as you can see with this one, Tennessee Realtors has a signature block, date, and a time already set up. So once I have all the signing blocks and radio choices and checkbox or whatever, when I have it all in place, I am ready to send it for signature. You probably, until you get used to doing this, and even after you're used to it, you want to double check and make sure you have everything set up the way it's supposed to be. And then when you're ready to send for a signature, you click on next, it saves it. Now you can save it as you're moving through just by clicking on the save icon. Okay. But if you've got everything filled out, you click on next and it opens up a window. And from this window is where you need to click on customize invites. And you can customize the emails that go out to the signers. And you need to do that. Article 9 of the Code of Ethics says that when we are working with people using technology, we have to make sure that they understand what they're signing. Okay, so the ABR, accredited buyer representative course, will tell you that if you're dealing with someone and you're not in person where you can explain it to them and you are going to go over the forms with them, that you should record it to protect yourself. Okay, that way you can prove that you went over all the forms with the consumer and you can answer their questions. It's very important that you remember that. So another layer of protection is when you are sending them forms to sign, that you customize their invitation, their email invitation, with language that reminds them not to sign anything if they have questions. Okay. So you may come up with some great language. Your brokerage may supply with you with language. We've supplied our agents with language. And so when you're customizing these emails to be sent out for signature, just think about that. Now, me being the buyer's agent, I don't usually customize an email for me. I just make the email subject be Buzz's initial offer paperwork. Okay, just so I know what it is when it hits my email. Now, there's another way for you to sign without it coming to your email, but that's another class. Okay, so watch for all that coming out on the YouTube. Now, here is Buzz's email. So I am going to make his subject be your initial offer paperwork to sign. Okay, and I'm just going to copy that. And I'm also going to take that down here to Sally, and I'm going to paste that same subject in her email. Now, if I have the verbiage all typed up somewhere, I could copy and paste it in here. And once I've copied and pasted it in here, I could save that message, give it a name, and save it. So every other time I want to use it, I don't have to retype it. I can just import it. So I'm going to click on import message because I have it already saved in here. And I'm going to click on import again, and it puts it in here. Now I have to go ahead and put his name here. This is Buzz. Okay. I don't have to add my name because my name's already going to be on the email, just so you know that. And then I'm going to come down here to Sally, and I'm going to import that same message to her email and add her name right here. Okay. Now, once I have these emails all customized for these buyers and or sellers, if I'm getting a seller signature, I can click on save. And when I click on save, then I'm ready now to send this signing for signature. So I'm going to click on send. Now, right now, Transaction Desk is sending emails to Buzz and Sally and to me that says, we need you to sign. Okay, so I'm going to show you what that looks like. I'm going to go ahead and come over here, and I'm going to open my email up, and you can see here I have a folder set up for Authentisign. I have this Authentisign folder set up. Okay. And I'm going to open that Authentisign folder. And here is Buzz's initial offer paperwork. Okay, that's my email for me to sign. And it's a little bit confusing because I use my email for everybody. But here is your signature is requested for Buzz and for Sally. So I'm going to open mine up first. And when I open it, I am going to click on Start Signing. And I'm going to go, it's going to open up Authentisign. I accept the terms of service. That has to happen every time. And then I'm just going to click on Start. And it's going to take me everywhere that I need to sign a document. Now, when I have clicked and signed everywhere, it's going to pop this window up that says Complete Signing. If anybody fails to click on Complete Signing, the signing will be hung up in the system. Okay? So I want to show you now that I have signed it. I've opened Transaction Desk back up. Here is the signing. I'm going to click on it. And you can see here that it's telling me that Susan Barnett, who is a remote signer, has authenticated it. In other words, she's opened it and read it, hopefully, and approved it means she signed it. So if you send something to somebody for a signature, and there's this little green shield here with that dot in the middle of it, but there's no check mark that they've approved it or signed it. If you see that, if you send it to them and 2 hours later, you see that they've opened it, but they haven't completed it, they haven't signed it, you might want to give them a call or text them and ask them if they're having questions, because you can see that they've opened the signing, but they haven't signed. Okay, so that is something to watch for inside Transaction Desk. Most people, when you send them something to sign and they know that you're sending them something to sign, they'll open it and go through it and read it and sign it, usually within an hour. If you go over an hour, you need to start checking on things. So make sure you do that. So I'm going to close this down in Transaction Desk, and I'm going to go back to my email, and I'm going to show you what Sally and Buzz see. Now, please notice right away that there is an email coming into your email that shows that there has been a signing update. It is going to email you every time that somebody signs something. Now, I know this isn't what I've used in this video, but you can see down here that it is telling me that the signing has been updated on other things, and then the signing is complete. You can even see here that the signing invite failed. Okay, so the system's going to alert you to things that are going on. So I'm going to get right into the next one. And this is Sally's. And here's the message that you sent to Sally. And we're going to start signing for Sally. And I'm going to walk through the entire process. Sally will have to accept the terms of service. When she clicks on start, it's going to come down here. And because Sally has never signed anything before with me, it's going to ask her to select her signature. Now there's a drop down right here where she can choose a different font. She may want a fancier type font. So as you can see, there's 4 or 5 different ones that they can choose from. And you're going to have to talk with them about this stuff. So you're going to need to know that. So Sally's going to pick this font and then click on set signature, and it's going to take her first to the checkbox. She's got to check the box, and then she's going to just start signing, okay, by clicking. That's how they sign, by clicking. And then she has to click on complete signing. All right, once she's done, we're going to go through and we're going to just finish up with Buzz. So I want to show you some things once it's finished. And this is Buzz. He has to accept the terms, and he has to click on start, and it's going to take him down. Now, he has bought things before, so his signature is already in there. So he doesn't have to select anything. Okay. They're going to have that. They're not going to have a survey. They're going to have that. We're going to sign this. They're going to waive their lead-based paint. They're going to sign. They're going to sign and complete. All right. So now I should be getting emails that things are completed or updated. And that's when I know to either go in and look at the transaction, or I'll just go look at the transaction and I can see here that everyone has authenticated and approved. I can click on this tab and I can see the original forms and the signed forms and the certificates. You should never delete your certificates. I'm going to open one of these so you can know and see what they are. The certificate is part of what makes the digital signing complete and legal signing. There is a certificate ID for each paperwork that is here. It tells you the signing name. It gives you the information on the document that they signed this document. There's the ID. There were 3 signature blocks. It shows that Susan Barnett signed it, and it gives the IP address where Susan Barnett was when she signed it. It shows that I accepted all the digital signature rules, and then it shows me the same thing for all the other signers. The more signers you have, the bigger your certificate, or the more pages your certificates will be. Don't ever delete your certificates. Keep them. So everything is now signed. And I can now come over to the document section, and you can see that in the document section, there are my certificates. And when I scroll through, the different certificates are there. There are the form that is signed. This little green lock icon box here, that means that is the signed form. So now I can select these signed forms, the ones that I need to send to the listing agent. Okay, I've selected them. There's 4 of them in the basket. I'm going to click on the basket. I'm going to click on the email icon. I am going to click on I'm going to type in the listing agent's name. I am going to click on the contact card, and I can go in here and I can send this to the listing agent. I can change the subject to offer for you on 9343 Charbar. I can write a really nice message here. Dear Susan, or whoever the listing agent is, here's an offer for you on your listing at 93 Charbar. I surely hope that we can work this out. I would love to do a deal with you. Happy Thanksgiving. I'm going to make sure it is sending as an attachment. Those are going to be PDF forms, and I am going to click on send. Now what I have done is I have created a transaction. I have filled out the forms. I have sent them for signature, and I have now just emailed them to the listing agent. To uncheck these forms, I just click on this X, and I will show you that in your menu for your transaction, if you click on history, you can see everything that you have done so far in this transaction, including the fact that I emailed these forms. If I click on information, it will tell which document I sent. It will show any message that I type in there. And so it is a risk management for myself in my real estate business. Now I'll show you what it looks like when it's going to be down here in transaction desk. When the other agent gets it, this is what it looks like. Offer for you on Charbar. Here's what the email looks like. Any message I typed would be right here. And down here at the bottom are the forms that agent needs to present to their seller. So we have walked through the creating of a transaction and the signing of the documents. That is the conclusion of this creating a transaction video. Please come back for additional videos. Thanks so much.